Hello, today I'll be demonstrating how to fine-tune an NER model using the IRI Workbench. Model fine-tuning requires an existing PyTorch or TensorFlow model that we can get from Hugging Face and a dataset in WNUT format. WNUT format stands for Workshop on Noisy and User-Generated Text. And let me display. So this is a WNUT formatted text file. You can see it's been broken up by tokenized into each word with an associated label for the model that was used for the tokenization process. And for the standard, you can visit this website here for WNUT. So we also require a model that we will be using for the fine-tuning process to make a new fine-tune model. And to do so, we can go to Hugging Face. Hugging Face has repositories of many different open source models. This model here I have is an NER model trained on English data sets. To clone it and to download it, you just do clone repository, do git clone, and I use git bash to actually make sure you have git bash or git installed before you try to do the cloning process, but you can use whatever terminal, whether it's git bash or PowerShell, to do the actual cloning. So I can just paste in this command here, and this will clone my this model to this directory. As you can see here, I already have it installed, so I'm not going to bother. So for my demonstration, I'm going to fine-tune this model using this WNUT data set. Now, I already have this prepared. You could produce your own if you wanted by going through our wizard to produce the WNUT text file. In this case, I had produced mine using this extracted text from a PDF and then placed it inside this text file here. So going through the NLP tasks wizard, there's several different options you can choose from. As I mentioned previously, you can choose to create some pre-processed data sets in WNUT format, or you can do the fine-tuning of your NER transformer. There's another option for an older model that Apache came out with many years ago for OpenNLP. What we're interested in is the transformers, some of the most latest NER tokenization models out there. So I'm going to fine tune this using my data set. So I'm going to select my folder where I'm going to be doing my fine tuning. Select my data set. Actually, I think it's in here. And okay. And so you can select either a PyTorch or TensorFlow model type, depending on the model you download from Hugging Face. Will decide which model type you choose. I believe the model that I have selected supports both PyTorch or TensorFlow. So now I'm going to select my model that I'm going to use for my actual fine tuning. Okay. So on this page here, this is where we can actually do some fine tuning on the data set itself. That was previously tokenized and put into WNUT format. We can, if anything was improperly categorized, we can recategorize and then put this data set through the fine-tuning process to make a more accurate task in NER operations. So let's look for something. So in miscellaneous, I see Lewis. So that's obviously a name, but it was put in miscellaneous. If we wanted, it should be placed inside the person tag because it's a person actually. So let's go ahead and just unlabel this. So now it's in the unlabeled words pool here. And let's go ahead and place it back in the right category. So let's label. Okay, so it's been added. Okay, so let's hit complete. Oh, let's just check real quick. Is there anything else? I don't see anything that looks... Okay, so we'll hit complete. Click finish. So it creates this folder with a batch file in there and the fine-tuned data set. To begin the training, we right-click, then run batch program. So it is currently going through and checking to see if all the dependencies are installed. So this runs with Python for the NLP tasks like training and data set preprocessing. So you'll be required to download Python, preferably version 3.8, since there's some version conflicts with different libraries depending on what other versions of Python you may have. So I'm using Python version 3.8. So it's going to take a few minutes here, but it's going to start fine-tuning the model and making a new model. So I'll just get back to you in a few minutes or so. And depending on the size of your data set may even take longer, tens of minutes. Okay, so now the model has finished. As you can see, the log has let us know that the model has successfully been trained. These 3 files were produced, and 2 of which are binary files for the model. If we wanted to train this fine-tuned model, we would just go here. And we'd also need to have a copy of the vocab and the tokenizer config. So with that, we can now use this model for our fine tuning instead. So we can delete this. And all we'd have to do is just repeat the same task that I showed originally using this new fine-tuned model. You could pass it in here, and you just would point to this model folder. If you didn't have a WNUT file and you just had text in a file, you can also create that from the Workbench, as I previously mentioned. Just would go do NLP tasks, create training data. Okay, so on this page, you're just selecting your folder, project folder again. Select model type. So the model you pick for creating your WNUT file should be the same model you plan on using with this WNUT file for your actual fine tuning, because different models have different labels and tags for identifying their tokens. So I'll go ahead and select, oops, wrong one. So I'm just selecting the model that I had previously fine-tuned with. And so on this page, you can either choose to split on punctuations. So on this page, we're choosing the method by which we're doing sentence detection and sentence splitting, which is one of the steps in pre-processing data into the necessary data set format for fine-tuning. You could either choose to split on punctuations, which works for most languages, like splitting on periods, exclamation points, question marks, and such. Or you could do NLP segmentation, which is an option if you have maybe text that's in a language that may not conform to using punctuations to indicate the end of sentences. There's some different options here for different language types to use. But for most people, split on punctuations is good enough. And then you could add your documents that you want to use to feed in to make that WNUT file. So we'll just go to NER, PDF extract, and we'll click Finish, and it creates this NLP preprocessing folder here. And in this folder, if you wanted to create your WNUT file, you just would right click and do Run As. Okay, so after about 5 minutes of running the NLP task for creating that WNUT file, that is finished. And it produces WNUT underscore dataset text. And if you look inside here, it's in the format I had previously shown, where we have each word tokenized with an associated label. And so now we have a fine-tuned model that we can train with again, and we created a new data set from that fine-tuned model that we can then use to further our fine-tuning.